I had a different way of starting this video off, but I don't care right now. What happened is some Jehovah's Witnesses or Mormons or whatever religions are out there that say you have to go door to door and spread the word, otherwise you go to hell, showed up at my door pretty early while I was still sleeping. So, sent my dog into a barking frenzy, and I couldn't get back to sleep, which you could probably tell. So, here's Infamous 2. And maybe I'll be more awake by the time the next camera cut comes.
I thought that I should review this game because, well, it's the one PlayStation game series that I covered but didn't finish. I covered the original Crash and Spyro PlayStation 1 games, I did all 3 Jak, Ratchet, and Sly games on the PS2, and I covered the 3 Uncharted and 3 Ratchet games along with the 4th Sly game on the PS3. I haven't covered any spin-offs yet, but that's coming, and I haven't touched the Resistance series yet either. There was speculation if there was going to be a second game after the first, and given that the second one left on a cliffhanger, where Cole was warned of a much bigger threat that was soon to come, of course there would need to be a sequel. They found a different voice actor for Cole and gave him a different personality. Good, because Cole from the first game was boring. Think Aiden Pierce from Watch Dogs boring. His friend Zeke was the most interesting character in that game, but here, Cole will actually crack jokes and be witty and is overall a fun character to play as. The graphics are much better than the first, and Cole's redesign makes him look more human and realistic. The cutscene animation is very realistic and isn't the stiff puppet movement that the original Sly games are known for, much like how the first game did. Cole runs like a real person and not like he has a load of crap in his pants either. The artwork for the comic book-like scenes are much better as well. It's a cleaner and more professional comic book look. The music is pretty good too. It's pretty epic when it needs to be, similar to how Uncharted likes to make its music epic, which I think they took some cues from, as Cole reminds me of Nathan Drake now. The presentation just feels so much better. Although the in-game cutscenes can run at 60 frames per second, while gameplay itself appears to run at 30, it's odd but I'm fine with it because it's at least a stable 30 frames per second, and not the not quite stable frame rate from the first game.
When you compare this one to the first, there is no comparison. Infamous 2 makes Infamous 1 look like a rough trigger. I got bored a quarter of the way through with the first one, but this time around, I tried to see to the end. I got as far as I could, but I ran out of time.
The gameplay is just wow, such an improvement. Cole still retains his main powers from the first game, like shooting electricity and the hovering ability. The moral choice system also returns where you gain powers depending on your actions. Cole controls much better than he did in the first and isn't as grabby as he was. In the first game, he would grab anything and everything he could, even things that were 10 feet away. And God forbid there'd be multiple things in the vicinity. This time around, you need to be relatively close to something for Cole to grab it, making it very easy to platform and move about the city, which is also smaller than Empire City from the first game. At least it feels smaller because traversing the open world isn't the chore that it was in the first one. I really enjoyed going through the city and exploring it. I would actually look for blast cores this time around as I skipped a bunch of them in the first. I would stop muggings, kidnappings, executions, I'd stop to heal people, and would generally go out of my way to get extra stuff and extra experience points so I could get more powers, because they were fun to play with, even though I didn't use that many. Combat is also more intuitive. It's easier to sneak up on your enemies and melee combat is awesome. You get a tool called the amp, which Cole uses as a weapon. Mashing the square button will build up a charge and allows you to use a triangle for a finisher. Other electrical powers are good, but more situational, or will just replace something else entirely. Your basic shot fires very fast and has high accuracy, but the more powerful version, the Magnum Bolt, is slower, and I want to say that it's bugged, because I've seen it go through enemies at near point blank range, and even the sticky grenade has gone through some enemies, but not as often as the Magnum Bolt. I use the sticky grenade all the time because, well, it's a sticky grenade. It's overpowered. You also get either ice or fire powers. I'm not sure how dependent it is on your karma, but I sided with ice powers as it coincided with the good path, as that's the one I was following. I found these powers to be situational too, because I didn't use them that much. The game is pretty easy, which is why I didn't use many of the powers that you get. Some fights were pretty cheap though, but the human enemies can't outrun you or shoot you to pieces like they could in the first. You can get swarmed in some situations, like when you're trying to set up transformers and the enemies come from all directions. Other times things can get in the way of the camera, or the camera itself screws up when an object and it collide, causing a weird angle, but it's rare when that happens. There's ionic powers that you can use when you collect a purple orb. These are very powerful abilities, and I found that I could use them whenever I wanted, as luck would be on my side, as an enemy would drop one shortly after I used it. Even during times when I was getting swarmed with enemies, I was enjoying the time as the battles were pretty epic. You're given the occasional help of two other NPCs named Ko and Nyx. Ko has ice powers and Nyx has fire, which is where you'll get the ice and fire powers around the halfway point depending on who you side with. When you're fighting with them, they basically set up enemies for you to take down and lead you to certain spots on the map where you may need to do something. The bosses are pretty good fights. The first Ravager and Devourer are great, but they return as mini bosses. The Ravagers turn into Hive Ravagers where they spawn adds, which is annoying, and they move faster than the original. And the only way to damage them efficiently, from what I found, is with sticky grenades. The first Devourer is fun, but you can exploit the boss by hiding on the rooftops or around corners. The Behemoth is awesome, but you can also exploit it by staying on the rooftops because it can't hit you, and the adds it spawns can't follow you if you jump to a different rooftop. At least they never followed me anyway.
The story takes place a month after the first, and kinda proves that games with a moral choice shouldn't be directly linked. Because the way this game starts off, it seems to take elements from both endings of the first game.
I didn't copy over my Infamous 1 save data, because I wanted to play this game as a standalone game, and if you want to avoid spoilers, skip to this time. The game picks up a month after the first, seemingly taking from the game's good ending as you fight the Beast, a monster foretold by Kessler, the villain from the first game. Cole gets his butt kicked and escapes to New Orleans. Well, it's not New Orleans, but it might as well be. He starts fighting the militia, a group controlled by a religious fanatic and conduit named Bertrand who is trying to have all conduits killed. Cole is trying to get more blast shards so he can be more powerful to stop the Beast. Now this is why I said that the game takes elements from both endings of the first game. The good ending, Cole said that he would be prepared for the Beast and is Empire City's savior. In the evil ending, he's obsessed with power and wants to be more powerful for his own desires and is considered a menace. This game takes most of its cues from the good ending, but when you get a blast shard for story purposes, Cole doesn't seem to be doing it totally out of necessity, but is doing it because he wants the power for himself. Because sometimes it feels like his intentions aren't that noble. But that's just how it felt to me, and it doesn't help when I'm doing good actions and being called the Scourge of Empire City. And that's why I say it feels like they kinda mix both endings together. He meets a local girl named Nyx who's doing her best to be a pain in Bertrand's butt. She tries to get Cole to help her and shows that Bertrand activated his own ray sphere, killing everyone except her and himself, and Cole finds that Bertrand is the Behemoth, and that he's turning people into monsters. Ko wants to expose Bertrand, while Nyx wants to take the monsters and make her own army, stating that the monsters bond to people like pets bond to their owners. Zeke manages to steal a nuclear missile. He and Cole fire it at the Beast, destroying it but only temporary. Cole meets another conduit named John. He shows that when Cole activated the ray sphere, it created a plague or ray sphere radiation that is killing humanity, but active conduits are immune. The Beast, who is actually John, is able to activate non-active conduits. He's doing that to save them from the plague and asks Cole to help him. Cole gathers enough blast cores to activate the ray field inhibitor, which would kill the Beast but also all conduits, active active and non-active, but it would save humanity from the plague. Now, the canon ending is the good one. Cole activates the inhibitor, killing the beast, himself, and everyone on the planet with the conduit gene. Zeke takes Cole's body to see, but there's a lightning bolt that strikes, showing that Cole might not be dead. The evil ending has Cole siding with the beast, killing Nyx because she was going to activate the inhibitor because she didn't want people to be conduits because that would make her less special. Cole kills Zeke and the beast stops as it's tired of killing, but gives Cole his power so Cole can continue its work, resulting in Cole becoming the thing he was supposed to stop.
The problem I have is that this story has finality to it, and Infamous Second Son takes place after this game's good ending. You know, when all the conduits were killed off?
If all the conduits are killed off, there can be no more conduits ever. It's a gene that's passed on genetically. Second Son retroactively corrects this by explaining that most conduits were killed, which to me is a lazy way of saying we were forced to make another. With the way it's written, I think Infamous would have been better as an anthology series where no game is connected to each other and you follow different protagonists, which is what I think they're doing now. Earlier I said that a series with moral choice shouldn't have direct sequels. Off the top of my head, the only one that I can think of that did it right was Mass Effect, but that was an RPG, not a platform action game. And in the end, your choices really didn't matter, but your journey did change. With Infamous, looking at the first and second as standalone titles like I did, there seems to be some retconning, but I think they could have benefited from what the BioShock series did. They exist within the same universe, or in Infinite's case, multiverse, and follow different protagonists each time. I think the issue I have with the Infamous story is that there's a canon one and a non-canon one that spans over the course of the series. Mass Effect did it correctly by saying that everything is canon because it's your story. BioShock 1 and 2 stand alone so their endings and beginnings don't clash. Infamous treats the good side as the canon one and evil as a what-if story. So even if I were to go the evil route, Infamous Second Son cancels out the evil Cole that I created in the previous two games. It's a really good story though, but I'm disappointed that they present one story as the real one and the other as a what-if instead of everything being canon like Mass Effect. I'm not going to hold that against the game though, because I did enjoy it very much and it's a huge improvement over the first. Cole is a very likable character this time around, there's more interesting characters like Ko and Nyx, and the bad guys are much better. The platforming, exploration, and traveling is much more fun and rewarding. Combat is also more rewarding and enemies are quite varied, offering different challenges, especially when mixtures of enemies are in the area, like militia, monsters, and other conduits. I really do recommend playing Infamous 2. It's the best one so far. I haven't played Second Son yet, but we'll come to that road soon enough. I'm wondering if this is going to be like the Sly games, where the even-numbered games are the best, and if that's the case, then the fourth will be just as good as the second and made by a different developer.
Well, I thought the first game was just okay. The second one, much better, and I'm glad that I played it. I got the Infamous collection for about $20 about a year ago, but you could pick up Infamous 1, 2, and the Festival of Blood for about $15 if you know where to look.